Today's guest is the much-loved John Morgan, Managing Director of Helios Homeopathic Pharmacy in the UK. So this was my first opportunity ever to get to speak with him. But pretty much since I started studying homeopathy many years ago, I had heard his name mentioned with great reverence amongst the homeopathic community. John qualified as a pharmacist in the mid-70s and crossed over into homeopathic pharmacy in 1979 when he became assistant manager of Nelson's Pharmacy in London. As his love of homeopathy grew, he enrolled for a practitioner course at the College of Homeopathy in 1981. And while he was a student, he gave some remedy-making workshops to fellow students who participated in triturating and potentizing several common remedies from their original material. By the time he finished the course, there were about 30 remedies made, and with the encouragement of students and homeopaths to have a new source of original remedies, John set up Helios Pharmacy in 1986, which has been growing slowly ever since, thanks to the resurgence of homeopathy in the world and the development of new remedies and provings. He is working part-time as the Managing Director of Helios now, but he still practices and lectures, and in his spare time he walks a lot and enjoys choral singing, playing the keyboards in the Helios band called the Solar Flares. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now my mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and a very warm welcome to Homeopathy Hangouts. Today, we get to speak with the absolutely lovely John Morgan, the Managing Director of Helios Homeopathic Pharmacy in the UK. Welcome, John.
Hello. Thank you, Eugenie, for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. Oh, I've been trying for a little while to get you on. You are a very, very busy man. And can you maybe kick off the show for us by telling us how you were first introduced to homeopathy?
Yeah. Well, I started out in pharmacy. I'm a trained pharmacist, and I really enjoyed doing the course, and I really enjoyed learning about drugs and their interaction, pharmacology. And I love the service side of it, helping people on the high street with their medications. But I saw the negative side of what drugs could do, particularly in the 70s when I was a young pharmacist. So I saw quite a bit of drug damage and addiction through just going to the GP, and people trapped and their energy quashed really by over-drugging. And that's still the case today, sadly. But of course, the drugs are a bit more refined than they were in those days. And so I was looking for something that was going to help people liberate themselves from disease and discomfort, and rather than just suppressing the symptoms and reducing their vitality. So at the same time, I was quite interested in exploring the spiritual world and the subtle anatomy of the human being and what makes us tick and what's it all about, Alf, as we say, meaning of life. So I was really going through a period of searching, and went overland to India and did a lot of traveling and all sorts of searching. So I thought I'd been in the wrong profession. I thought pharmacy was not going to be it for me. So I was looking around for what to do, but drifted back into it because I needed to earn a living. But I carried on looking and reading, and eventually I came to herbalism first because I studied at uni what's called pharmacognosy, which is the study of plant drugs. And in those days, a lot of tinctures that we know, like Nux vomica and opium and belladonna, they were all used in medicines at that time. And so I did quite a lot on plant drugs and the analysis of those. And so I looked at herbalism, and I did a herbal course, which was great, but there was something missing there. There was something philosophical I was looking for. So actually, when I started to read about homeopathy, it was more the philosophy of it. The idea that we've got this vital spirit in us that animates us, and that it actually, the goal of it is to help us live life to the full and actually to fulfill our potential. And then, of course, if you add spiritual dimensions, whether it's soul or spirit or however you look at life, it all fits in very, very well. So it was really reading Hahnemann that really grabbed me, apart from anything. And then, as I said earlier, the desire to work with tools, with remedies, with products that were actually life-enhancing, that would stimulate people to live life to the full and not be bound by being on drugs all their life. So I moved into homeopathy by working at another homeopathic pharmacy. There wasn't any training at that time, so I kind of learnt off the hoof. And I went to Nelson's, which I'm always eternally grateful for the opening into homeopathy. And they said, okay, well, here's 30 remedies, just learn them and then counter prescribe. As people come in, just do what you can. So I was very naive and not very experienced, but I had some great results even then, just with 30 remedies, just counter-prescribed in the pharmacy there. And then again, as I studied more, and I realized there was more to it than that. There was the constitutional side. There was actually looking at the whole chronic pictures and people's stories. And so the desire to get more involved in that led me to enroll at the College of Homeopathy in the early 80s, which has only been going a few years, but had some great teachers. So I was really lucky to have some great teachers at that time. And it was a big college. There was over 100 per year.
Oh, wow.
And I loved it there. It was great. Really found my tribe. And then some students knew that I knew how to make remedies. So they came to me and said, listen, we've never seen what it's like to make a remedy. Can you show us? So I had got some equipment and tubes and more some pestles, and we started having some remedy making circles in people's houses and made some remedies up just for the experience of it. It was great fun. By the time I finished college, we ended up with about 30 remedies. Not really any idea to do anything commercial with them. Mm-hmm. But people, when I left college, were asking me whether they could have some because we've been selling them a bit to the students so we could redo them. And of course, homeopathy was really starting to grow then at that time, around 85, 86, and the whole 80s and 90s. There was a huge growth in homeopathy. And there was a need, certainly in the UK, for another pharmacy. And starting from scratch with original substance was our byword then, and still is. We still try and get the original material for everything we can do as much as possible.
So no radionics.
Yeah, so
it's all made all made from the original substance.
By hand, yeah. We do have a few essences, Peter Chappell's essence, and a few other things. But generally, our core business is just traditional handmade remedies. And our strapline used to be remedies made for homeopaths.
By homeopaths for homeopaths.
Yeah, and most of our staff who are working with remedies are homeopaths that have their own practice. And yeah, we opened in 86. I found a place to practice, which had a shop associated with it. So now wife and I, we started then, and we've just been busy ever since, been non-stop ever since. And we're just so lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And from a pharmacist's point of view, it's been a hugely successful career because homeopathic pharmacy is still real pharmacy. It's still making stuff. It's still making creams. It's still compounding. And I used to love that when I was training. And also when I first did pharmacy, there was still a lot of compounding, but that's all gone now. And it's more a service industry, which is great. And then the counter prescribing. And then I've always had a part-time practice. We've got clinic rooms above the pharmacy. And just working and living and being in the homeopathic community worldwide has just been such a personal joy for me. Just amazing people, fantastic people that homeopathy has attracted. And yeah, I still love it. Still do a bit of lecturing and still find myself listening to myself as enthusiastic as I was 35 years ago. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. Hey. And, you talk about those amazing people out there, but actually I've chatted to a few of them and they think you're pretty amazing too. And the consensus amongst homeopaths worldwide is that you're one of the most amazing homeopaths and people out there. And people always say, the ones that I know that have talked to me about you have said how humble you are and just what an amazing person you are. And because you're so humble, and I know you're not going to blow your own trumpet, I'm going to do it for you because I just want to let our listeners know that John recently and Helios recently made a really sizable contribution to my podcast because I put a call for help out there to the professional homeopathic community because it costs me so much to pay my editor to do the episodes. I can't edit them myself anymore. So I ended up paying for somebody and it was costing a bomb. And John just very quietly slid in this amazing contribution that's paid for so many episodes to get edited. So I just want to say publicly, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And it's made such a big difference to the show.
Oh, thank you, Jeannie. Well, actually, that brings me on to our ethos, actually. And you mentioned the Helios logo.
Yeah.
That really, for me, was the symbol of the ideal of homeopathy. And that's what inspired me then and still inspires me, the idea of getting to a state of being where we are free from disease on all levels, on the mental, emotional, physical level. And the sun is really a wonderful symbol of that, where you've got lights, which represents an enlightened intellect. You've got the warmth of the heart, where there's love flowing, and you've got the power of the life force. So Helios was really used as a logo and a name to represent that ideal and to remind us of that.
I was wondering why the Helios and why the sun. That is really cool. And the Helios is the sun god in Greek mythology, of course. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. But also, right from the very beginning, I always we always have had a policy of supporting the community in many ways, sponsorship and donation and everything. It's always been part of our work to always give an amount per year to different causes in homeopathy. So it wasn't anything new, but I was very grateful. And the timeliness of it was perfect because Mary mentioned you, and of course we just set up a date for this, so there was some cosmic serendipity there. So
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Now, talk to us a little bit about why you felt it was necessary to use, because you use very traditional methods and there's still, hand succussion. I saw your little YouTube video as well, and you see the homeopaths there hand succussing, and I can just imagine how much root-of-grav you use amongst your homeopaths there to help with RSI. But why do you feel that's important?
Well, there isn't really any other method that's really been developed. I mean, the pharmacopoeias, which are the kind of recipe books that pharmacists all over the world use, and there's different ones, but basically the methods in it are still the methods of Hahnemann, the trituration, the succussion, etc., separate vial succussion. And so there isn't really another way. The only thing that's been developed in recent years is to take the trituration process a few more steps. And some of your listeners might have heard of remedies made from C4 or C5 that in Germany they developed, where you move, in traditional remedy, you move from the 3C to the 4C, from solid to liquid, particularly with the mineral remedies, because you've done 3 hours of trituration. But if you do another couple of extra steps, because trituration creates the most powerful potency, then it gives another dimension, another power to the remedy. So that has been the only real development. There's no change in the dilution factors. So until there's another way, until we can really measure potency and know the best way to do it, or a way to do it that's even more effective, we just stick with what we know. And we just followed Hahnemann, and it's tried and tested. So
I'm sure he's there in that room with you in spirit every time you're making those new remedies. I wonder, John, can you talk to us a little bit about potency? Because I remember from my lectures all those years ago, it's one of the most confusing things when you first learn about homeopathy. And, one of the questions I get asked the most with my clients and with listeners, and I'm sure half the phone calls you guys probably get when people ask for advice, is about potency. What is it? Yeah. Which one is the best to prescribe when? What's your thought on homeopathic potency? Yeah. And can you tell our listeners what it is?
Okay, well, there's 2 things about potency. One is the process of the dilution and succussion, which is a 1 in 100 serial dilution with these succussions in between. The firm shakes on a firm but elastic object, to quote the organ. We use a leather-bound book. As the dilution continues, obviously the material content does get less and less until it disappears. But the kinetic energy that goes into the pounding of the succussion actually creates, well, there's several theories, but the one I like the best is nanoparticles, these structures within the alcohol and water that are created from the pattern of the original material, and they carry on. So the mystery is what those structures are like beyond the dilutions, but we know there's something there. In terms of their application, well, the old alchemical adage was physical remedies for physical problems, spiritual remedies for spiritual problems. So the 12C and below are the material potencies, where there is some material present. So they're very good for physically centered problems. For me, the choice of potency is, where is the center of the case? Is it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual? If it's a physically centered problem, a physical acute, then the lower potencies are best. Now, when we get to, say, 30 and beyond, we've got 30, 200, 1M and 10M. We don't know what the difference is between those potencies. So we work by experience. But the best way is to consider the higher potencies not as stronger, but as deeper. As they're more spiritualized, again, to use the organon's phrase, they're going to resonate with the more spiritualized part of the person. So if the center of a case is not so physical, is more mental, emotional, for example, then you're going to need a higher potency, because you need something to resonate on that deeper level. Because as we go deeper and deeper into the human anatomy, into the subtle anatomy, it becomes more spiritualized. So we need a remedy that's been more spiritualized. And there's another dimension, that is intensity. So, for example, if you think of acutes, and most people use 30 or below for acutes in their home, which is great. But as we know, say we get a bump, just an arnica bump, a minor bump isn't really going to affect us mentally and emotionally. But if we have a car accident where we get a big bump, it's going to really affect us mentally and emotionally. So that's why a 200, for example, is a very good potency when an acute situation is affecting the mental and emotional side. Most homeopaths might start off with a 1M or a 10M if they can see clearly the constitution, if they can see very, very clearly what the remedy is. But they're not, and of course the repetition of high potency is less frequent, because when you stimulate a healing process on a deeper level, it takes longer for it to come to ground. As we know from our philosophy that the vital force is always trying to push things to the surface to relieve the very important organs. So if you're touching a healing with a high potency on a deeper level, it's going to take longer to actually use up. Whereas a lower potency, you'll need to repeat more often because it gets used up more quickly.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I always say to my clients. The best way I can describe it is that it takes longer for the body to use it up. That's obviously, the simplest way to explain it. And I loved how you said that, you talked about the kind of nanoparticles, but Bruce Lipton says that it's the hydrogen bonds between the water molecules that is able to transmit the signature or the messages from the original substance. I really like that explanation. Yeah. And I really like Bruce Lipton, so that's why.
Hydrogen bonding is great. And I'm sure that's part of it, but it's less stable. It's more influenced because liquids are always dissolving gases from the air constantly, and also temperature. And all those things that we know will antidote remedies, like sunlight and smells and strong electromagnetic radiations, they will break down those hydrogen bonds. So it kind of fits. But the nanoparticle is silica-based. So for me, it makes the remedies more robust than just purely hydrogen bonding. But I'm sure there's two involved.
It's going to be exciting times in the next few decades, I think, with the Homeopathic Research Institute and, people doing more research on the remedies.
Yeah. But on the other level, there's a magical level, almost a shamanic ritual to a remedy. And the interview is a really healing process in itself. Sometimes I think the remedy is just secondary to that. It's a whole process, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. I half jokingly say that I believe that in 50 or 100 years' time, we're not actually going to use any homeopathic remedies because everything is just energy. But I think once we realize how powerful we are and that everything is just energy, and we can actually just change things with, by changing our own energetic being, just by our thoughts, then people are not going to even need homeopathic remedies. You can maybe even just say to the person, you need natmur or something like that. And the energy of that will be enough to heal the person. But I don't think we're there just quite yet to be able to make that leap. But I just have a funny feeling we're going to end there one day. But in the meantime, there is certainly all that beauty about harvesting those plants, doing the trituration, the ritual that's involved in that. And I actually heard a story. This was probably about 12 years ago or even more. And somebody told me that I don't know if they used to work for you or used to be friends with somebody that worked for you, but they said that there's so much thought that you and your team put into making the remedies. And if somebody's making a remedy and they're in a really bad mood or they've just had a breakup or something like that, then you will gently ask that person to not sit in on the making of the remedy because of how the energy can affect that remedy. Is that true or not? This was many years ago that I heard this.
Well, certainly what you're thinking, what you're feeling while you're making a remedy, I don't know how much it influences it, but certainly that side of it, I think, is important to have be focused and have that right intention, and for that to be as conscious as possible. I did read some old texts about homeopaths who, while they made remedies, read the Materia Medica as they're doing it. And in our manufacturing department, when they do medicate, they do a final step to medicate they often do that, the remedy that they're making, just to call it in, as it were. But yeah, I mean, keeping a really good atmosphere in the pharmacy and working together and having those values is really important. And we've worked quite a lot on that with the staff, of affirming the values that we have, integrity and responsibility and compassion, etc., etc. So that does underpin everything we do. It makes us enjoy work, and I think in the future companies will be not so much judged on their profitability and all that, how good they are. I mean, we're seeing that within sustainability assessment of companies, but you can run a company based on love and compassion and mutual respect and unity, and not have a lot of issues, and working for healing. So it comes out in everyday work.
It really does. You've got a beautiful video on your website where a lot of the staff are interviewed, and you get to have like a little feel for what it's like in the office and the people that work there. And I mean, you can't fake what those people are saying, because it beams out of them that they are just so happy to work there, and they're just so happy to come to work. And, you know, one of the ladies says she's worked there 13 years and every Monday she just loves coming into work. You know, how wonderful to be able to provide that sort of environment for people as well.
Well, some of your listeners probably know sometimes being a homeopath is a bit of a lonely world. You're out there on your own in your practice. And to be working every day with like-minded people around you, and several homeopaths in the same place, it's great. It's great.
So, John, tell me a little bit about some of the newer remedies and the new provings and things, because I tell you what, with doing this podcast, I am getting exposed to so many weird and wonderful new remedies. And sometimes I feel like I'm like, what am I doing going down this rabbit hole? But tell us about some of the new remedies that are out there and some of the new provings.
Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, when I was a student, we had Kent and Borica, etc. And in Kent's repertories, I think there's about 693 remedies mentioned, which is quite a lot. I mean, some of them with small provings, some of them, you know, I think Hahnemann only had 120. Yeah. So there was always been development of new remedies, particularly at the end of the 19th century. Then nothing much happened until really around the 1980, and it was Jeremy Scher who really kicked off the proving boom that followed. And we've been lucky enough to work with Jeremy all over the years, and then others. I think as human beings evolve, as diseases evolve, there's definitely a need for new substances to be brought into the materia medica. So there's early provings that we did with Jeremy of hydrogen. He did scorpion, and then diamond and chocolate. Sometimes he would suggest a remedy to me that would raise my eyebrows a little bit, but with a really good proving, both substances will bring out a really good picture. And so we've worked with those traditional homeopathic provings for many years. We still do it at Misha's College at Manning Norland. Every year the students there, and at the Welsh School, they do a proving with some substance that they choose. So there's still some Hahnemannian provings going on. But also people like Jan Scholten and other people who work with plants and the classification of minerals and elements and other things have developed materia medica through the existing materia medica. For example, the Scholtens work with the minerals, worked out from the data what combinations of cations and anions of different elements of the minerals would create. So it's kind of like a theoretical materia medica. They haven't all been Hahnemannian proved, but it's a fantastic resource for information and understanding, and the whole periodic table understanding is just one example. Now plants are being looked at in the same way, their constituents, their taxonomy, to create a huge number of new remedies, some of which are very difficult to get. And the animal remedies, the bird remedies and the milks, at the beginning there was only laccaninum and lacphilinum, and now there's milks from nearly every animal. Of course, a milk will create a fantastic archetype of the animal within the setup. And then other methods, the meditation proving, for example, is still popular, but was particularly very popular in the 90s. So a lot of it, I was involved myself for 9 years with a meditation group, where you spend 4 hours in a very receptive state, and you either hold or you take the remedy and you just observe what happens. And within a group of maybe a dozen people, you will find very, very common patterns, which will give you an insight into what the remedy can do. It's kind of a quick method, and the picture is limited, but it's still very valid. So, and there's a few remedies that I use. Oak is a good example. That's a wonderful remedy. It's kind of like it has that kind of nat mure suppression within it, but it's linked to, if people know the Bach flower, the oak picture, where they work and work and work and work until they break down. They can't do it anymore, but they just keep going and going and are in denial about their disease, for example. And then all the crystals, the rose quartz and emerald and things like that have been wonderfully proved. So I think there's been there has been I think, too many new remedies.
There's been a lot.
Now, in the complete repertory now, there is 2,500 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And that means they're remedies with something to go on, even if it's a small number. And for students and for homeopaths now, I mean, I think it must undermine their confidence a bit about knowing what to choose. But the saving grace is that although finding the simillimum, the principle of the simillimum is what makes homeopathy work. It's not black and white. So if there's to whatever degree of simillimum there is in a remedy that you take, there's going to be some reaction.
Mm.
And who knows whether the actual holy grail of the remedy is not even something that we have yet, So we're always trying to get the best totality remedy that we can in the moment on whatever level we want to start the case. And certainly the computer remedies have made a massive contribution to being able to see and get in contact with those remedies that you wouldn't really come in contact with because you don't know them. We tend to prescribe things we know. Mm-hmm. So those have really expanded as well. So I think looking back over the last 30 years, I think since certainly 2010, there's been more of a consolidation. There's been less provings going on. And I think we need another 20, 30 years of consolidating all these new provings and getting to know them, working with them clinically, so that, so they'll be more established. Because there's a lot of proving remedies that haven't made the light of day, that aren't used, but have been a wonderful healing process for students. I mean, doing a proving is a wonderful experience for people. It's a very healing experience. And it really does, if you have any skepticism about whether remedies work, then provings really blow that out of the water. It really does give you the subjective evidence that you need. Yeah.
Let's have a quick little break and we're going to come back. I've got a bunch more questions for you. So let's get back to it, John. Speaking of the provings, I just recently bought a whole bunch, I think about 20 or 30 different butterfly remedies from Helios, because they are pretty tricky to get hold of. I got some from Scotland a couple of years ago when I first started playing around with them. And then I got a whole bunch more from you guys just recently. And we've got a group of mums here in Perth that was doing a bit of a butterfly proving. And like you say, if you were ever skeptical about homeopathy, take part in a proving, because we had some really interesting remedies, really interesting symptoms come out. And there were some things that came out, because I know we haven't got that much information on the butterfly remedies, but quite a few symptoms came out that I haven't found in any of the materia medica so far. So that was really interesting for me, because I'm very interested in prescribing butterfly remedies. So if I can understand them a bit better, then that's really great. And I had some interesting things happen to myself, and I'm like, it doesn't say that in the materia medica, but this is definitely not my symptom. This is definitely something from the remedy. And, I would say Hahnemann proved 120 remedies on himself in his lifetime, and he lived to be 88 years old, which is pretty amazing for the time that he was living in. So, he did something right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You said before when Jeremy asked you about proving some remedies and you raised a bit of an eyebrow. Do you still raise an eyebrow at anything 30 years later? Because it feels like these days nothing can surprise me anymore with homeopathy. So I wonder, do things still surprise you?
Yeah, things definitely still surprise me. There's been some energetic remedies from Stonehenge, for example, where the telegmatic remedies, or I don't know what you call them, when you're capturing a force from somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Those are quite challenging, although I love the imponderables. Yeah. So there's a lot of crystal emanations and things like that. And even holy men and holy women who've just in India have held a vial of something, and that's been made into a remedy.
I haven't heard of that either. I know some of the butterflies are emanations. I know they've done butterfly emanations. Yeah.
So I think on one level, I'm completely open. I mean, one of the things about pharmacy is that we're neutral. In a way, all we do is potentize stuff. It's like alchemy. Actually, when I teach students about what is a homeopathic remedy, it's not really something that's been diluted and succussed. It's the reason it's given that makes it homeopathic. I mean, Hahnemann worked a lot in his life using crude material, but giving it according to the simillimum principle. And the potentization bit came kind of later. So the reason the remedy is given makes it homeopathic, really. I mean, you can use potentized material to suppress if you want, or you can use it isopathically. I mean, that's another area which is, again, that's a long story, but a lot of our remedies, we have 4,000 substances, and a lot of those other things that aren't proved are isopathic. Anything people are allergic to, in an attempt to desensitize or to relieve their symptoms, we've got them potentized, and all the allopathic drugs. So it's not really homeopathy. It's a partial overlap. So potentized material is used in many, many different ways. But it's the principle that makes them homeopathic, really. Yeah.
Can you quickly run for just the general public listening, just what isopathy is and what are some examples of isopathy?
Isopathy means, isopathy is when you actually give a potentized form of the substance which is causing the symptoms. So the best known example and one of the most common ones is we have a remedy from mixed pollens from many, many different flowers, which is a very common hay fever remedy. And people send us samples of different things, which is quite amusing sometimes, because to make a remedy, you only need a pinch, like a pinch of salt is enough. People send us whole bags full of cat hair and things they're allergic to. So it's quite amusing.
Well, it was probably a hyperallergenic cat after they got rid of all that hair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's what isopathy is. It's kind of a shortcut, really. And from a homeopathic practitioner point of view, it's a very lazy way of working. But it's kind of like as a last resort sometimes. And it has its place.
Yeah.
I mean, using potentized drugs or I'll say vaccines as have never been well since is a very useful thing. And that's the best way to use isopathy is when somebody's had never been well since. If a disinfectant, for example, at home has caused some reaction for you, then taking that over just 5 days can just help, because basically you're stimulating you're conning the system into thinking it's got another dose of what it's already got. So it's the system, the vital principle tries to overcome the remedy, and it does. And then in the wake of that extra effort, it helps to push out the poisoning symptoms of what you had. So, but it's relatively superficial compared to the interview and the totality remedy, which really goes deep to the heart.
Absolutely. I have to admit, one of the places where I use isopathy a lot is if I have clients who are not able to come off their pharmaceutical medications. So, for example, they've had their thyroid removed and they have to be on thyroxine for the rest of their life, then giving that potentized drug back to them as they take the drug. I just find they have less side effects, and it's a really nice way of using it, I find.
Yeah. That's a good way. Yeah.
So John, have you got some interesting stories that you can share with us about, from the clinic? You said bags of cat hair. Anything else? I'm sure you have some really interesting things that's happened over the years in the pharmacy.
Oh, I mean, there's quite a lot of danger involved. There's some, we make explosive remedies, which are quite fun. I recently had a very bad injury by grinding gunpowder, which went off. I was grinding outside, and the sun was shining, and I burnt my hand very badly. Thankfully, it's back to normal again. We had to make goldfish remedies in the 90s. This was for a new proving, and the way, I will say to people, there is some killing involved in homeopathy, particularly the insects and the spiders. We have to basically put them in an alcohol solution, and the bees, things like that. So there is an element of that. But I remember, I'll never forget when I had to make the goldfish, and it was a simple little goldfish, and we slowly added alcohol to it so it would die quite slowly. And I foolishly did it while other people were in the pharmacy.
Oh.
And everybody cried. Everybody was crying and crying, way beyond their sensitivity to, the sacrifice of the goldfish. And then when we did the proving, and actually goldfish is a very good end of life remedy. And it was used quite a lot in the 90s for helping AIDS patients pass over. Beautiful remedy. It died very, very slowly with the alcohol. So that's just one example.
That's so interesting. And can I just quickly clarify something? So just for our vegan listeners or anyone who is particularly sensitive to these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So there was that one goldfish that was sacrificed. And the reality is the remedy that was made from that one goldfish can literally last us forever and make remedies for pretty much everyone on the whole planet, right? Forever and ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. From a small amount of the original material, we could give everybody on the planet a bottle of 12C.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm sure even a vegan could justify that, surely.
We are aware that the vegans are understandably sensitive, but I have to be upfront and say that there are some insects particularly. The higher mammals is not a problem. The snakes, we can milk the venom. We don't have to kill the snake. The Mephites, for example, that's from the skunk, and the beaver castoreum. These come from the anal glands, from secretions, the ambergrissia from the whale. So we don't have to do really anything particularly violent, just the smaller animals. Another fish theme, which again I'll never forget, I had a fish breeder who breeds koi carp came to me and said, we've got diseases on the skin of our fish. We don't know what it is. And somebody told me, can you make a remedy from it, from the scales or from the disease? Again, an isopathic approach. So I said, yeah, we can do that. I said, he said, how much do you need? I said, we only need one fish, just send one diseased fish. Yeah. So he said, well, there's a couple of different lesions on the skin. So he said, leave it with me. Anyway, I come into work one day and there's this big kind of 10-litre container with about 20 fish in it, swimming about. So, I've been veggie all my life. And so I run down to the pet shop, buy a tank, buy an air stone, get some food to keep these fish going. So we had them in the back of the pharmacy for a few weeks. And I made the remedy and we fed it to them, as well as sending it to the guy. Yeah. And we saw some great results. Slowly, these lesions were healing up over 2 or 3 weeks. But I had the problem of what to do with these fish. What can I do? They're still diseased, so I want them to be in your home. So I was studying, I was teaching, that's right, a local group. And I told this story. And one of the students said, my husband is a fish breeder. So I rang him up and he had a tank, or it wasn't a tank, it was actually in the ground. It was outside. It was like a big tank there, just empty. And he said, I'll take them and look after them. And so they ended up in fishy paradise, these fish.
Really? Oh.
So it had a really happy ending. But those are the lengths we go to.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, that was so much fun hearing these stories. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. John, if there was one message that you want to leave our listeners with about homeopathy, what would that be?
Well, we've been through a lot on the social level. Homeopathy's really had a hard time justifying itself to the scientific community. And we've been through some difficult attacks through scientists and people who have basically find homeopathy implausible. And all the clinical trials that we did have from the 70s, 80s have not been powerful enough to get them accepted. So we've been through that now. And that did have an effect. The social media and the media itself has been very down on homeopathy from around 2010 onwards. Although before that, of course, it was the opposite. Homeopathy was really sexy. Everybody had a homeopath, and in the papers there was well-being articles. So it changed very quickly. And it did have an impact on the profession, on the confidence of people. Homeopaths sadly sometimes admitted that at dinner party be a bit ashamed about, or a bit timid about saying who they were. Yeah. But the good news is that, in a way, thanks to COVID, which has moved things on and changed things a lot, we've got a resurgence happening, and things are growing again, and things are moving forward again. And homeopathy is in a very, very strong place. In the UK, we're holding up really well. Europe as well, despite these attacks. America has a huge grassroots level of homeopathy amongst families and amongst people working from homes, Facebook support groups. So we're going to see homeopathy continue and develop, and I hope it's going to find its way back into the mainstream, because in all countries, whether you have a private system or an NHS like we have in the UK, the complementary medicine sector, including homeopathy and osteopathy, chiropractor, herbalism, all those what used to be called the alternative medicine practices, we are all under the radar supporting our national health systems by taking all those patients and looking after them so they don't have to get to their doctor there. And the preventative side of it is doing wonders to support those systems. That really hasn't got the recognition it deserves, but it will. It is going to come, particularly as in the UK, our NHS is at breaking point. The government we're trying to get people in Parliament and MPs to look at the complementary medicine sector and say, listen, there's something good here. You should look at it and use it and engage with it. And so I don't think in my lifetime I'm ever going to find what the secret of potency is, whether it's nanoparticles or whether it's hydrogen bonding. But I do hope to see politically homeopathy and all the other complementary medicines things become an integrated medicine, which is the buzzword these days within health systems in the UK and other countries. So that's my dream at the moment. And
you would have seen me smile ear to ear when you started saying that, because I have that same feeling. It just really feels like, I keep saying homeopathic revolution, but honestly, it really feels like that is happening right now. And I think COVID has been wonderful for homeopathy because, so very many different reasons, but I'm seeing homeopaths being busier than they've ever been before. And I know our homeopathic pharmacy over here in Australia, they've been run off their feet and employing more staff, and people are demanding homeopathy because they want to take charge of their own health and they want something safe and effective. And it gets me really excited. I'm just happy to hear you say it, because I was thinking, I'm sitting here in my little corner of the world thinking, we're going to create a revolution, but you saying over the other side of the world, it feels the same way. So that makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Amazing. And
during COVID, during the first lockdown, we were so busy. We had to close the website. We couldn't cope with the demand. I've never known anything like it. It was hard. We pulled together and got through it. But people were panic buying. We couldn't get vitamin C or anything to do with the immune system. But it was amazing. We're through it now. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And people can get hold of you at helios.co.uk. Go and have a look at their amazing remedies they've got there. They've got incredible kits, some great information on there, and watch that little video of all their beautiful staff with their happy, smiley faces. And you'll see John on there as well. Thank you so much for your time, John. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to share this episode with the world. And thank you for the amazing work that you do for homeopaths worldwide.
Oh, thank you, Jeannie, as well. It's been a real pleasure. And I send best wishes to all your listeners for a happy and healthy homeopathic life.
Thank you.